Hello humans, it's just Martine. I made this video where I reread the second book in my favorite series of all time, Kingdom Keepers by Ridley Pearson. And I said I was going to make it a series, and I meant it. Also, lots of people seem to enjoy that video, so that's promising. So for this part 2 of the series, I'm going to be reading the third book, Kingdom Keepers 3, Disney in Shadow. Buckle up for this one. Kingdom Keepers 3 retains the label as my favorite book of all time. Does it have flaws? Yes. Do I love it in spite of those flaws? Absolutely. Kingdom Keepers 3 to me has my unconditional love. And yet, do I roast it all the time? Also, yes. This copy appears to be in very good shape, right? That's because it was not my original copy. I actually lost my original copy, was devastated, immediately bought this, and I wanted this cover anyway, so it was fine at the time, and then later refound my original copy, and I was happy once more. This book is over 500 pages. The pages look like this, so it's not the longest 500-page book I'll ever read, but it's longer than the second one, as well as the first. Books just get chunkier as you go in the series, so this is a pretty standard length for the rest of the series until the last book, which is just abnormally huge. But anyway, let's quickly go through the reasons that this is my favorite book of all time when it still can be a trash pile sometimes. Number 1, for the first 2 books in the series, the secondary Kingdom Keepers are just that. They're the secondary Kingdom Keepers. We follow them occasionally, but we don't really give a crap about them. I mean, the readers always do, but like the third person perspective just doesn't really care. But the third book, that really starts to change. Philby used to be my favorite character. He's still pretty much my favorite character, but as I said in my last vlog, Maybeck swooped in as I got older. But Philby finally starts to really appear in the third book. 3 is also my lucky number, so we love that. And the third book mainly takes place in Epcot, which is my favorite Disney park. It also features rides that don't exist anymore. I mean, the rewrite probably has them gone, but rides that I loved. Why did I love Maelstrom in Norway? I could not tell you. Is the Frozen ride still good? Yes. It's not Maelstrom. Could we not have had both? I know the answer is no, but I'm just partial. This book also has some pretty outdated Disney Channel references, which I love. We get to see some of the Kingdom Keepers' favorite shows when they end up watching Disney Channel for a night. We'll get there. And honestly, this is just the perfect continuation of the series. As I said in my last video when I read Kingdom Keepers 2, that really starts off what the series is made of, like the world building growing and everything getting more high stakes. Not that the first book isn't high stakes, but you know what I mean. The third book, just also, because it's my favorite, the third book was the only one that I ever bought on audiobook. I've borrowed the others from the library sometimes, but I bought the third audiobook. It's read by MacLeod Andrews, who also reads part of the Illuminae File series, and we love MacLeod Andrews in this household, even though his voices for all the girl characters is like really bad. Anyway, all that to say that when I fall asleep, when I'm falling asleep, I tend to listen to audiobooks, not music, but audiobooks. And the default choice for me has always been Kingdom Keepers 3. I cannot tell you how many times I've probably heard the whole of this book. So rereading it might seem pointless to you, but I never like sit here and read it with my eyes. I think I've only done that like 2 or 3 times, but I've heard the audiobook an uncountable number. So there's that. So I'm really excited for this. What I mean by I know this book super well is if I were in the world of Fahrenheit 451, which thank goodness I'm not because I love books, but if I were, the book that I would be is this one. I already have whole sentences here and there memorized. I lay there trying to fall asleep, and sometimes I speak with the narrator, and it's alarming. From page 1, we have some great foreshadowing going on with Stitch, quote unquote, appearing out of nowhere on Tom Sawyer Island. Also, it said that they were there 3 hours after the park had closed. I feel like the park on an early night closes at like 9. They better hurry up before their midnight curfew. Of course, that curfew changes in this book, but not yet. We're not there yet. Too many thoughts already for page 1. Wayne grew up having a pet monkey. That's all. The insults that Maybeck and Finn throw at one another are subpar at best. I mean, Maybeck starts off pretty strong. Show off. Okay, I got it. And then Finn, elitist. All right, I've never seen that to be the case, but okay. Let's say Maybeck's elitist. Know-it-all, Maybeck says about Finn. all right? And Finn retorts with probably the meanest thing he could say. Eye candy. Yes, that's right. Attractiveness is apparently an insult to Finn Whitman. There's an absolute abundance of italicized words for emphasis in these books. I was just thinking about this last night. I was trying to fall asleep. In some of the books, they describe Charlene's body as that she has a gymnast's body, and in this one, they say she has a cheerleader's body. Personally, I think these are two different things, because if she was as into gymnastics as it would mean to have a quote-unquote gymnast body, if you look at like Olympic gymnasts, there's a very specific build, and that's never how I've imagined Charlene. I guess I could be imagining her wrong. I also am so curious, how long has she been doing gymnastics and cheer? They never really say. They also say Philby has the body of a soccer player. Literally whatever that means. Very unspecific in my opinion, but okay. These guys are like ogling Charlene in a nightgown. Nightgowns make you look like you're from 1950, whatever. Meanwhile, first of all, it says that Willa looks Native American or Asian. No choice was made there. And then she's wearing a t-shirt that says "Bite Me." It's a promotional for a seafood restaurant, and I'd be looking at that shirt. That's funny. That is big Willa attitude right there. That's the most character building we get for Willa in like the first 4 books, honestly. That's not true, but it's a lot of it. This is a very important thing to take notice of. On page 13, it says, in projection shadow, the DHIs could still touch, feel, talk, smell, and hear. Later on, they're gonna be in shadow, and they're not gonna be able to talk. Or can they not talk? Because like it would freak people out for them to talk. Either way, it should be noted. Page 15, it says that they were added to the cruise lines and the ice show. They haven't been set up on the cruise line yet. Can we have a whole book that's them backstage at the ice show, pretty please? On page 13, it literally said that in DHI Shadow they could leave footprints, so they had to be careful. And then on page 16, the pirates see footprints, and the Kingdom Keepers are like, we made footprints. And I'm like, we just talked about this. We just talked about this. I will never recover from Finn Whitman having a poster of Matt Damon on his ceiling. On his ceiling. A picture of Matt Damon. Why? Finn Whitman is wearing a Rays t-shirt. That's fine. Cargo shorts. Never a good look. And Keens. Amanda should not like this boy. That is one specific outfit. Also, one of Finn Whitman's favorite snacks is potato chips with ketchup, which I don't like the idea of. Part 2 of everybody's favorite series. Finn is in love with his bike, aka Bike. The Hawk Tracer BMX back at it again on page 26. He thinks he's so slick. Page 29, here's where it happens. A girl once called Jez. Now it was Jess or Jessica. Once called Jez, as in the 3 weeks ago that Kingdom Keepers 2 took place, where once again the back cover called her Jess and the entire book called her Jez. Once called Jez. Finn's friends laugh at him for saying that Amanda is not like other girls, and I've got to say his friends are right. That's a terrible thing to say. That is horrifically stereotypical. You can do better than that, Finn Whitman. Actually, I don't think he can. They're discussing the Fairleys, and it's interesting, the wording here, because it says that Amanda called the gifted residents of their former foster home Fairleys because she considered them to be fairly human. She considered them to be that. They were sitting at the end of the cafeteria normally reserved for losers. I don't know if Ridley Pearson is saying that it's normally reserved for losers and thus these two are not losers, or that it's normally reserved for losers and this is no exception. It's interesting as I'm in child advocacy classes and I'm hearing Ridley Pearson try and write about the dependency system and Jess and Amanda's views on the dependency system. And this line always sticks with me. I'm sure it's the case for some people. It's not what we're taught to be the case, but it's interesting that this is supposed to be the perspective of somebody who has to deal with the dependency system. She says, "We are at the mercy of a social worker from," you get the idea, "from no place you want to be from. He's decided that the paperwork is a whole lot easier if we go back to Maryland. Foster care isn't about how to find the right home for a kid, but how to get rid of kids with the least amount of paperwork." Just something to ponder. I'm revisiting that moment in my Kingdom Keepers 2 video where I made note that Finn said he could only cross over while awake while in the Magic Kingdom. Now it's book 3, it's page 34. Finn admitting that if Luowski came at him, which will happen later in the book, that he can turn into his DHI. I stan Amanda telling Finn that it's not about him. I am slightly ashamed to say that I once spent literal hours of my life looking at page 37 and trying to see if the math was right on it. It turns out it probably is. I went from around the area where Finn's middle school would be based on where his high school was, or I think I maybe looked it up in the first book either way. And then I figured out how long it would take to bike to a bus stop that would use the type of bus that could go to Disney. I pored over Google Maps for hours. And page 37 is pretty legit. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Amanda calling his disguise pitiful. Amanda is just honestly roasting him the whole time. And then he has the audacity to think, she's gotten really sarcastic lately, and I don't like it. And I was like, really? This is my favorite Amanda. But I already knew that Finn Whitman and I had different tastes in people. For instance, he's okay with himself, and I'm not. With him, I mean, I'm fine. I'm pretty fine with myself most of the time, but him, I am not okay with. They say it's 82 degrees where they are and that's boiling. Guys, that's the actual temperature. 82 is not boiling. The feels like, though, maybe that's close to 100. That's boiling. The feels like. These girls came from school, middle school. Let's remember, why do they have a purse instead of a backpack? Martine, go and check your last Kingdom Keepers video. How old did they say they were? Because I've got page 50 saying 15. Amanda is also 14. So 3 weeks later, they're suddenly 15. They're 8th graders. 8th graders. They're not 15. Foreshadowing, Amanda is thinking to herself, if we jump out of the boat on Living with the Land, they'd be busted. Girl, you're right. You will be busted. Page 61, it says they sat on Amanda's lower bunk. Page 63, Amanda leaned out of her upper bunk. I couldn't last 2 pages without doing something wrong. Oh my goodness. Did I mention the name of the ice cream shop in the last book? Was it in the last book? I know that it changes throughout the series, which bothers me. So here, for evidence, page 73, book 3, The Frozen Marble. Finn thinks everybody's in love with Amanda. Amanda literally says hi back to Philby, and he's like, is there something going on here? Is there a spark between these two? Why did Philby get here so quickly? Did he want to see Amanda? Finn is crazy. I've always kind of taken issue with this speech given by Charlene on page 76, when Willa questions why she's like really down to help Wayne or whatever, for a couple of reasons. The first is that she says that she fits the aesthetic of what Disney was looking for, the same way Maybeck does, and all of us really. But she said Maybeck first. Okay, so she thinks he's good looking, right? We got that. Then she goes on to list what the others contribute. You're smart. That's a Finn. Creative. Maybeck. Able to figure stuff out. Philby. Daring. Willa. I would argue that Finn is not smart, that able to figure stuff out is not a good descriptor. Willa grows to be daring, but we've literally never seen evidence of that before this point. We haven't really seen Maybeck be creative up until now, but I'm really stuck on Finn being the smart one, because I disagree. She also says, maybe I can't climb as good as Philby. In the series, Ridley Pearson mentions over and over again that Philby is a rock climber. He even mentions that, I think in book 4, that's how Willa and Philby start to have a crush on one another, or at least Willa starts to have a crush on him, because they'd go rock climbing after school every day, which is cute. But we literally never see either of them climb, even in situations that would require like rock climbing type things. They just always send Charlene to do it, which I think is interesting and I have a problem with, because I just want to see Philby smash it at climbing something. Is that too much to ask? I feel like it's not. But yeah, it really bothers me that they're all like, what are you so excited about? As if she's been super pessimistic this whole time, which I don't really think she has. If anyone's been pessimistic, it's been Maybeck. But that's just his usual, like, practical, questioning everything they do kind of style. Anyway, rant over. I hate that Ridley Pearson chose to make all the guys understand what Finn is saying and have the girls go, clue me in, please. Why is Maybeck wearing sunglasses at 9:15 at night? Or, like, 9:30 at night? Why is he wearing sunglasses at night? Also, page 82 is where it says that he's wearing Converse. Shout out to Maybeck for dealing with Finn's, I don't really want to curse here, absolute BS, racist BS on page 85. There are a couple issues that I have with this particular conversation that they have. First of all, Maybeck just makes a joke. He says, Baba Black Sheep. And then Finn is like, okay, let's talk about that now. And I'm like, let's maybe not, that wasn't the best approach to it. Maybeck, he says, there's good parts of that and bad parts of that, but I'm not going to pretend I'm white, and I'm not going to not talk about it just to make you comfortable, which I love. And then Finn says, I don't think of you as African American. He acknowledges maybe it's disrespectful not to. Heads up, it is. Then he goes on to talk about the kids at school. You know who I'm talking about. They try to be cool. They make a big deal about listening to rap, where the lowriders talk ghetto talk. I hate that kind of stuff. So there's a microaggression. Let's count them up, folks. Finn Whitman needs to get woke. And just Maybeck is like,
we don't have time to unpack all of that.
So instead, he just makes a joke and he says, so how cool am I? And I feel so bad for Maybeck because, like, he obviously shouldn't have to defend himself or correct Finn on these things. And I know these are written characters, like, they're not real, but these kinds of conversations happen all the time. And I feel like it's never acknowledged in this book that this conversation is not handled well, that Finn does a really bad job of it. And he doesn't change throughout the series about that. And so I feel like I would hope that in the rewrite of this book, they would fix this conversation. If Ridley Pearson changed nothing else about the series, I'd want him to change this conversation or have Finn reflect on this conversation later and get better, because kids reading this book are going to think that the things that Finn believes are right, that colorblindness is okay, that these microaggressions are okay. It's never acknowledged that they're not okay in this series, and that needs to change. Update, a couple pages ago I was wondering if the history book Finn was reading to fall asleep would cross over with him, and it did, because he just set it down. So first of all, does he ever pick it up? And then second of all, it's never mentioned again, but if this is how he usually falls asleep, does he cross over with a history book in his hands every night? So the woman who turns out to be Wanda Alcott appears at Nash House, and Amanda's like, oh my gosh, it's that woman who's been following around the Kingdom Keepers. And Jess is like, are you sure? As if they didn't get kicked out of the Disney park earlier running away from her. As if they didn't see her in person a few days ago. Madness. Amanda insisting that they all call him Donnie, not Terry. You all call him Maybeck, except Willa, who asked in the last book, and she calls him Donnie. For the rest of the series, y'all are gonna call him Terry, so don't lie. Although Philby suggested they don't talk, Finn, of course, tried to anyway, and it didn't work. He tried talking only to discover that he had no voice sound. It turned out was part of the projection process. Okay, there are night guards, and it says they might allow characters their freedom, as Wayne had told them, but they wouldn't appreciate kids running around. But weren't you recruited because the cast members can't see the original Disney characters? Isn't that the whole point of your existence? The night guards would not be letting them have free reign. They'd have no choice. They wouldn't be able to see them, but they can see you, which is why they can catch you, right? This is the pose that Finn just did. Okay, he was like, hi, park visitor, can I show you around Disney's Hollywood Studios? And then he strikes a pose. One hand out, the other on his hip. Hello, park visitor. Can I show you around Disney's Hollywood Studios? What? In the rewrites, are they still going to have Charlene ask for them to recite the guest number on their Disney pass, or is she going to mention, like, magic bands? Maybeck asks a yes or no question, and Finn says, we can talk about it later. Just say yes. Just say yes. Upon first facing one another, Finn and Wanda Alcott are standing face to face about 5 yards apart, and all I could think was, great social distancing, Finn. Again with this smart thing. Wanda just says that her dad told her that Finn is the smartest one of the group. I was like, your dad lied to you. Also, Amanda sent Wanda to the studios looking for the rest of the Kingdom Keepers because she thought they might need help. Instead, Wanda showed up, and yes, she lets them into the soundstage, but she gives them the white box that Amanda and Jess were given, did not give back to her, and they were like, we'll get this to them tomorrow at school. But she took it to them. Okay, whatever. I'm pretty sure this book is the first one where they talk about Maybeck as an artist. Right, so here's something that irks me. On page 114, Philby says that they'll be safer inside Soundstage B because security is not allowed to go in there because the stuff that they shoot in there is classified. That's great. Until a couple scenes later when they almost get busted by security in there. And security definitely does have access, is all I'm saying. I don't know if anyone else has this problem, but I always imagine the soundstage as kind of like a tight room, bunch of equipment in it, especially because in the later scene when security comes in, it just seems like security is always so close to them. They're always so close to being caught. But this description right here is like, it's huge. It's the size of an airplane hangar. The feet is 50 feet high. There are hundreds of lights in there, and that's not what I imagined. Maybeck says that they're planning to have the foster home girls at Crazy Glaze, his aunt's pottery shop, on Friday night. It's Friday night. I went to a pottery shop this evening. I turned to my sister and I was like, I kind of feel like I'm at Crazy Glaze. And now, Friday night. It's really funny. It's them dressing up as the High School Musical parade kids for me. But for real, I miss that show. Hollywood Studios is not the same without it. I wonder how Ridley Pearson rewrote that for the new releases. Are these Star Wars characters? That would be amazing. That would be incredible. Wait, that might be better than this. Finn directed them to squat, stand, walk, lie down, run, crawl, dance, and jump. The security guard, who by the way should not have access to Soundstage B, according to both Philby and Wanda Alcott, is asking why they didn't hire real kids to serve as guides in the park, which is a stupid question if you think about it, because first of all, child labor, and second of all, you're just gonna release middle schoolers into the park to show people around, to answer all of their questions, to have data about your park guests? No! Middle schoolers have feelings that can easily get hurt. Middle schoolers are tiny beings that could easily get hurt. Why would Disney put real guides in there? Also, that's not cool. Jeannie Puckett's poster of Finn Whitman has me sent because I'd never considered this before, but Jeannie... Okay, I knew Jeannie Puckett was roommates with Jess and Amanda, but that means if she's a poster of Finn Whitman on her wall, there's a poster of Finn Whitman on Amanda and Jess's bedroom wall too. Because it's the same bedroom. Imagine having a picture of your crush on your wall, like one you know in real life, have a real connection with. That's so freaking weird. Also, why does Jeannie not already know you know Finn? Anyway, the whole thing is really funny. I usually disagree with Finn Whitman on most things, but it says that his experience with technology has been way less than Philby's. Like, Philby thinks everything is possible with technology, and Finn has not had that same experience. It says, like, half the time he can't even get his printer scanner to work, much less hack into, like, the Disney World computer system. And I was like, boy, my printer has been sitting in this room. I have lost hours and hours and hours of my life trying to get it to work. Nada. Printer capability. This is where Finn Whitman and I agree. A couple comments. One, you can't honestly make me believe that Philby doesn't know that it's a Stradivarius violin, not a Stratosphere. You just can't make me believe it. You can't. Second of all, I love seeing Philby in his element. That's one of the things that I always loved about Philby growing up and reading these books, and one of the reasons he's been my favorite character over the years, even though now I've grown to have a love of Maybeck, is because he's really passionate about what he does, and he doesn't let other people's opinions about his passions for those things either diminish his passions or make him stop caring about those things or stop doing them. Philby's got this passion for doing things that he loves and getting good at things, and that's why he's an amazing character. He wanted to learn about technology, so he did. He wants to be an expert in everything, so he learns, and he loves it. He loves every second of it, and that makes me love him. And then Finn is basically useless in this scene, is all, except to correct Philby about something that I'm sure Philby actually knew. Stradivarius. As Philby said, geesh. Also, I desperately want to know Philby's typing speed. Anyone else? I know this is basically almost the entirety of my rereading the Kingdom Keeper series, but can I just take a second to roast Finn Whitman? I have always read this and dismissed it. He has a picture of Amanda in his head and the song With You in his ears, and he goes all clear. So I looked up the song With You because I've never thought about it before. The only songs I could find, there were a couple Christian songs, and I was like, I don't think that's it. And then there was one from 2003 that was a Jessica Simpson song, so I listened to that, and it didn't seem like the right vibe. I'm pretty sure he's referring to the 2007 Chris Brown With You, which still doesn't fit the vibe. Don't get me wrong. It makes sense in this particular context. Like, the context is right. The vibe is wrong, but the context is right. Finn Whitman would have... That's not a great love song, I don't feel. Has anybody's life changed because of Chris Brown's With You? Let me know in the comments, please. What a random song to get in your head. Like that, and it's not slow, I wouldn't say. Like, I was imagining like a ballad, but no, he just uses this like Chris Brown bop, and he's like, I'm gonna walk through this door now. That's what happens. I feel like he 100% had to be talking about Chris Brown's 2007 song because he just referenced a 2006 movie. I think Ridley Pearson was trying to be hip and relevant, but I didn't get any of that when I was reading this. Hipness and relevancy just fades so quickly. Oh man, Adam Sandler's Click. I've never seen it, but all Adam Sandler movies feel like early 2000s movies. I don't know how else to describe it. His internal monologue about his mother is so rude. First of all, he outright comments on her weight. He's like, you're getting too thin, like you're gonna disappear or whatever. Okay, don't comment on a woman's weight. How about, yeah, what? And then he's like, she's watching too much Desperate Housewives. She's starting to sound like those women. Go to school. Eat your pancake and go to school. Hate the dude. Hate it. not relatable. I'll never get over the way that they shorten text messages in these original printings of the book. Philby signing a text PBY. It's literally, that's half of your name. Just include the other half too, PBY. Also, Finn called his sister the Rat, and he's so mean. PBY. Before this book, I had no idea that it was a thing for people to sit on the handlebars of a bike. Seems really unsafe. Neither of you got a helmet on? Nah. Amanda's like, I can sit on the bar so we can take the bike, and it's faster than walking. But like, look, a couple scenes ago, after he fought Greg Lewowski, she sat on the saddle just fine. They didn't have to walk then. Why'd they have to walk now? I don't know why I never put this together now. Wanda explains the engineering base, and she says the Imagineers refer to it simply as the base. The base is really important in later books, and I've literally never put it together that that's what it is. They only ever explain it the once, I feel like, unless I'm not paying attention to the later books. Always possible. Finn is reminiscing about the laser burn a pirate gave him once, and that he still has a scar from it, as if a pirate didn't literally slash him with a sword in the first chapter of this book. I also love how Finn is so worried about them being there for Fantasmic because there are villains in Fantasmic, which, by the way, they then predict the end of the book, instead of the fact that that means that there are other people in the park. Did no one just see them appear? R.I.P. to Lights Motors action. On page 181, we get yet another confirmation that the security guards can see and interact with the characters, but that's the whole point of the Kingdom Keepers in the first place. It says on page 182, Book 3, Finn did not appreciate Wayne telling him that he would be the leader. Well, later he's not going to appreciate feeling like he's not the leader anymore, so make up your mind. They solve the first part of the cryptogram. They know. 10/14, October 14th. They say that's in like 2 days. Then it says 2 days pass uneventfully. Then we get into this scene where they solve the cryptogram. It says 2 full days pass. And then later, Mrs. Whitman will be like, you'll do this tomorrow. That's 3 days. They passed the date. They just passed it. I think they're going to believe that they're there on the date. They're like, it's 10/14. Okay, except 2 days passed. 2 full days pass and then a third. It should be the 15th. It's the references to Wizards of Waverly Place and Cory in the House for me. This has always been one of Maybach's funniest quotes in my opinion. Page 206, stupid, stupid, stupid. It's a geek elephant with earwings, an overweight Will Smith. I don't even know what he means. Finn says that the Carousel of Progress is in Magic Kingdom. That's true. And that it's rarely open, which is false. I ride that ride literally every time I'm in the Magic Kingdom. Really don't know how Ridley Pearson's going to address this Wonders of Life thing now that they're finally tearing it down. Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. I only went a couple times because they closed it pretty soon after I started being old enough to go to Epcot, but it was scary. I did not like it. Yeah, Gigabyte's terrifying. Somehow knowing that the others would follow, that Jess would stay with Amanda and Philby would join him, Willow wasn't going to remain in the bushes alone. I just want to point out that he knows in book 3 that Philby will go with him. Philby will follow him. When does he stop trusting Philby to follow him as a leader? Philby has followed him from day one. Just because he knows things doesn't mean he wants to be the leader. It just means he's good at his job. Now be good at yours. We're just going to move right past Finn literally tripping up the stairs. I would dwell on it. Personally. Finn goes, I think my favorite Kingdom Keepers meme ever is from page 238, where Finn yells, scatter! And all I can think is, scatter! Page 244 is the only instance I can think of in which they say that if you press the fob with your finger, the fob would come with you, and so they press it with another object, in this case a pen. Literally, the ending of almost every single one of these books is like, Finn pressed the button or whatever. It never says like he takes a pen out of his pocket and then touches it at that moment. No, because that wouldn't be cool. But in this moment, when they're in danger, it has to be more complex. We finally have a pretty good life lesson, page 250. A part of him understood that she was right. When it came to doing good, it was better to do something risky rather than nothing at all. Maybach's Aunt Jelly cooking chocolate chip cookies in the kiln. How does Philby have time to look through a dozen languages and over 100 fonts to look for these symbols. How does he have the time? He also researched invisible inks. He's also doing schoolwork. In the new book, do they go on the Frozen ride? It's a lot less scary. Philby never had to cross over before to program the servers, and he never has to again. But here he says he has to, that he can't access it from outside. That's a lie. We're noting right now that Charlene arrived in the same cotton nightgown she wore so often. Note it, remember it, because for the rest of this book, she's gonna be in that nightgown. They're not going to mention it. She's going to be doing like flips and tricks. She's going all the way to Phantasmic in this. Bare feet. She's doing all this stuff, and she's in a nightgown the whole time. Ooh, whoa, it's a typo. Willis says, that would be yes on segues and moving fast. And then it breaks a paragraph as if a new person is talking, and it should be Charlene, and instead it says, that's random. Willis said, that would be yes on segues and moving fast. That's random. Here's a friendly reminder that the dialogue tag said is perfectly fine, because here somebody says, no thanks, and then it uses the dialogue tag gushed, which I think is not right for this case. Philby stands robotic rights. They're test track tummies, and Mamek says, but they can speak. And Philby says, I kind of noticed that. I suppose the term dummies is not quite fair. I mentioned this conversation earlier, and I'm going to not act it out for you, but I'm gonna read it for you in a stylized way. I'm not going to do the accents because nobody needs to suffer like that right now. It's about a page long. It's on page 269. So Maybach says, no need to be like that. Philby, like what? Like the way you're being. There's every need. You challenge everything I say, Maybach. You're a nerd. That's what I'm supposed to do. Says who? Like there's a handbook or something? Listen, you're the nerd and I'm the dude. What can I say? I thought you're the one who doesn't like stereotyping. That's true. So I could cut you some slack some of the time. Like now, for instance? Okay, I get it. What you don't understand is how annoying it is to hang with a know-it-all. Then don't hang with me. I don't mean it that way. You're okay. It's just annoying that you know so much. Pardon me for living. You wouldn't understand because you don't have to be around it. I happen to like knowing stuff. I'm not knocking that. Of course you are. You make the rest of us look dumb. Feel dumb. No way. I'm telling you. I don't mean to do that. I get excited about knowing stuff. Maybe I take it too far. Maybe. Message received. But you're no prince either. Don't tell the ladies that. I just think they do a much better job of communicating their differences with one another than, say, Finn and Maybach do. They just go back and forth. They're like, well, this thing about you, okay, I get that. Here's my perspective. All right, I don't mean it that way. Well, that's how it's coming off. Oh, I didn't know that. My bad. So much better. So much better. So I have arguably too much footage for this, and I'm not going to cut as much of it as I probably should because I'm really making these videos for myself. Like, if you're watching right now, please comment down below that you made it this far in the video because you're my hero. I'm on page 272, and I talked it over with some of my friends that I'm going to split this video into 2 parts. So part 2 to come soon. This was the first half of Kingdom Keepers 3. I'll have all my real concluding thoughts at the end of the next video. But if you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up and comment down below if you're excited for part 2 of this video, if you're enjoying this series, if there are any book series that you really want to see me read, or you're curious if I've read before, go ahead and leave all your suggestions and questions in the comments below, and subscribe for more reading, writing, and college lifestyle content on Wednesdays and Sundays. And until next time, bye humans, bye!